Logan couldn't take his eyes off the elderly woman in front of him, her breathing short and labored amidst the luxury of that restaurant he knew so well. All eyes were fixed on her, but no one seemed willing to act. The tower of seafood scattered across the floor, the murmurs of disapproval, and the dry sound of Grace's labored breathing blended into a scene of tension and indifference. Without thinking twice, he acted. But what Logan didn't know was that, at that very moment, his life was about to change forever, and the simple decision to help a stranger would trigger a series of events he could never have imagined. The La Magnifique restaurant was one of the most prestigious in New York, where every detail was carefully planned to provide a unique experience for its patrons. It was the kind of place where every gesture, every movement, seemed rehearsed. Logan, a 26-year-old waiter, had become accustomed to the frenetic pace and strict demands that were part of his job. Despite it being his first job, he had already learned to handle demanding customers and hide any signs of fatigue. That night, however, something different happened. Grace, a frail-looking elderly woman with a tired gaze, sat alone at a table near the window. The atmosphere around her was a mix of discreet laughter and low conversations, typical of a place where social status mattered more than the food. Logan noticed her when she entered, hesitant, almost out of place amid the glitz and glamour of the restaurant. Her eyes fixed on a distant point, and he realized that, even surrounded by people, she seemed terribly alone. It was during the service of the main course that the unexpected occurred. Grace, trying to reach for her wine glass, accidentally bumped into the tower of seafood in front of her. The dish, arranged like a work of art, crashed to the floor with a bang that interrupted all conversations around. The silence that followed was broken only by Grace's gasping breaths, which indicated she was entering into a panic. Logan, who was attending a nearby table, didn't hesitate. He rushed over to her, trying to calm her while trying to understand what was happening. "Please, take a deep breath, ma'am. I will help you," he said, his voice low and calm, despite the growing turmoil around them. Grace tried to follow his instructions, but she seemed unable to control her breathing. Logan realized it was something serious. He shouted for an ambulance, the urgency in his voice cutting through the tense air of the restaurant. Meanwhile, the manager, Gabriel Taylor, approached with quick, firm steps. He was a man who valued order and image above all else, and witnessing that spectacle unfolding in the midst of La Magnifique was something he could not tolerate. "Logan, what are you doing? Keep the customers calm. We can't have chaos like this here," Gabriel hissed through clenched teeth, trying to keep his voice low, but with an authority that did not go unnoticed. Logan, still kneeling beside Grace, did not respond immediately. His priority was the lady in distress, not the manager's orders. When the ambulance arrived, he helped the paramedics take Grace outside, feeling a momentary relief upon seeing that she was receiving the care she needed. But that feeling was soon replaced by frustration as he faced Gabriel's stern gaze upon returning to the restaurant. "You shouldn't have caused this scene. We already have enough problems to deal with. We'll talk about this later," was all the manager said before turning away, leaving Logan with a bitter taste in his mouth. What Logan didn't expect was that seemingly simple decision to help a woman in distress would be the beginning of something much larger, something that would change not only his career, but his entire life. Logan returned to work, trying to concentrate, but the weight of Gabriel's words lingered in his mind. Every move he made seemed to be watched with even more scrutiny than usual, and he knew his actions would not go without consequences. The tension was palpable, not only between him and the manager but also within himself. He questioned whether he had done the right thing, but deep down, he knew he couldn't have acted differently. Later that night, as the restaurant began to empty, Logan approached the cash register, took some bills from his wallet, and paid Grace's medical bill. He knew it wasn't his obligation, but he felt it was the right thing to do. For him, This was not just a job, it was a matter of humanity. When he was finally about to leave, Gabriel called him over for a conversation. The manager's tone was controlled, but the tension in his words was evident. "You disrespected the rules, Logan. It is not your job to pay for the customer's expenses or get involved in this way. This kind of behavior is unacceptable in this restaurant." Logan remained calm, but there was a tone of defiance in his response. "I did what I thought was right. She needed help, and I couldn't just ignore it." Gabriel took a deep breath, seeming to weigh his words. "You're fired. We can't keep someone who puts their impulses above the rules." Logan stared at the manager for a few seconds before responding. "I understand, but I would do it all over again if I had to." With those words, he left the restaurant, knowing that his future was uncertain, but also with the conviction that, at least in that moment, he had made the right choice. What he didn't know was that this simple gesture would echo far beyond the walls of La Magnifique. Logan walked through the bustling streets of New York, feeling like he had left behind more than just a job. The night was cold, and he pulled his coat tighter around him, trying to ward off the regret that was starting to creep into his mind. Each step he took echoed Gabriel's voice, the warning that he had crossed the line, that his actions had no place in that elitist and controlled environment. However, deep down, Logan knew he could not have acted any other way. There was something more important than any etiquette rule or internal procedure: humanity. He passed by a pharmacy, buying the medications that the paramedics mentioned were necessary for Grace. Even as his bank account dwindled with each bill he handed over, he felt he was doing the right thing. Money might be scarce, but empathy was priceless. With the bags in hand, Logan headed to the hospital where he knew Grace had been taken. Upon arriving, he handed the medications to the receptionist and asked to speak with Grace. When he saw her lying in the bed, her pale face against the white sheets, a feeling of compassion washed over him completely. He approached slowly, trying not to disturb her, but Grace opened her eyes upon sensing his presence. "You again? You didn't have to do all of this, my dear," she said with a weak but sincere smile. "I wanted to make sure you were okay," Logan replied, pulling up a chair to sit beside her. "You really scared me. I was worried." Grace smiled, an expression of gratitude evident in her tired eyes. "It's rare to find someone like you, Logan. Very rare. Thank you for everything." The two talked for a few minutes, and Grace shared a bit of her life with Logan. She mentioned having been a successful businesswoman in the past, but since retirement, she had been feeling increasingly lonely. The young waiter could see the depth of that lady's loneliness, and he felt comforted knowing that, at least for that moment, he had done something to alleviate that feeling. When he finally left the hospital, Logan felt the weight of his decisions more than ever. He knew that being fired meant uncertainty, and that the road ahead was unknown, but the feeling of having helped someone in a time of need gave him strength. What he didn't expect, however, was that this simple act of kindness would quickly spiral out of control. The next day, he was awakened by a flood of messages on his phone. Friends, co-workers, and even people he didn't know were sending him links to a video that had gone viral overnight. The video showed the moment he helped Grace in the restaurant, the scene of the plate breaking, his attempt to calm her down, and finally, his outburst with Gabriel before being fired. The image was clear, capturing the tension in the air, but also the determination in Logan's eyes. The video, apparently filmed by a customer who was at the restaurant, had been shared across various social media platforms, with comments ranging from praise for Logan's courage to harsh criticism of the restaurant's stance. Suddenly, Logan was not just a former waiter, he had become a symbol of empathy and compassion in a city where those values were often forgotten. But along with the viral spread of the video came the consequences. The restaurant La Magnifique began to be bombarded with online reviews. Customers who had once idolized the place were now boycotting it, accusing the management of lacking humanity. Gabriel Taylor, the manager, was under pressure, desperately trying to manage the damage, but the situation only worsened. The hours that followed were a whirlwind for Logan. His phone wouldn't stop ringing, and he found himself surrounded by attention he had never sought. What started as a simple act of kindness had turned into something much larger, something he didn't know how to control. Logan felt a mix of pride and discomfort. He never wanted to be the center of attention, but now it was too late to turn back. Amidst the chaos, Logan received a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was smooth yet firm. "Logan, my name is Donald Martinez. I'm Grace's husband. I'd like to meet with you." Logan was taken aback, but agreed to the invitation. Donald arranged to meet him at a discreet cafe in the Upper West Side, away from the hustle and bustle of downtown. When Logan arrived, he found a well-dressed man with an austere appearance, yet a gentleness in his demeanor that contrasted with his serious posture. "Thank you for coming, Logan," Donald said, extending his hand. "I wanted to personally thank you for what you did for my wife. She told me everything." Logan shook his hand, feeling a bit intimidated, but responded sincerely. "I just did what I thought was right, Mr. Martinez." Donald smiled slightly, but there was something in his eyes that suggested this conversation was not just about gratitude. "You did more than that, Logan. You showed what it means to be human in a world that often forgets that." Donald paused, seeming to weigh his words before continuing. "My wife and I are not ordinary people. Perhaps you've heard of us." Logan shook his head. The name Martinez wasn't unfamiliar, but he couldn't quite connect it to his presence there. "Martinez Industries," Donald continued, "is one of the largest technology and philanthropy companies in the country. Grace and I have dedicated our lives to helping those in need, but we've realized that no matter how much we do, there is still so much more to be done. That's why we started conducting a social experiment, something to help us better understand the people we deal with." Logan blinked, trying to process what he was hearing. "Social experiment?" he asked, his voice revealing the confusion he felt. "Yes," Donald nodded. "Grace put herself in a vulnerable position to see how she would be treated. And you, Logan, not only passed the test but impressed us in a way we didn't expect. Your gesture went beyond what we imagined." Logan fell silent, absorbing Donald's words. He could never have imagined that his life would take this turn. As the reality of Donald's words settled in, he began to realize how that simple act had impacted not only Grace's life, but his own as well. Donald smiled again, this time with more warmth. "Grace and I would like to offer you something, Logan. Something that could change your life." Logan looked at him, feeling a mix of surprise and anticipation. He had never expected this, never wanted it, but now the opportunity was before him, and he would need to decide what to do. That meeting marked the beginning of something new, something that would challenge Logan's convictions and lead him down paths he never imagined he would walk. Logan's life was about to take an unexpected turn, and the choices he made in the coming days would define not only his future, but the impact he would leave on the world. Logan left the cafe with his mind racing. The meeting with Donald Martinez had been more than just a simple thank you conversation. It felt as if the ground had opened up beneath his feet, revealing a new path he had never imagined walking. Donald's words echoed in his mind, intertwined with images of Grace, fragile yet strong, sitting in that hospital bed. He could never have guessed that by helping that woman, he would end up crossing paths with one of the most influential families in the country. However, as he walked through the cold streets of New York, something still weighed on him. There was a sense that all of this was too surreal, as if he were living a story that didn't belong to him. But Donald's proposal was real. Very real. The next day, Logan was invited to visit the headquarters of the Martinez Foundation, located in an imposing building in the heart of Manhattan. He entered the white marble lobby, feeling small in the face of the grandeur surrounding him. Waiting for him was Grace, who now wore a serene and welcoming expression, quite different from the woman he had helped days earlier. "I knew you would accept the invitation," she said with a warm smile. "Donald and I discussed a lot about what happened at the restaurant, and we know you are the right person for what we want to propose." Logan followed her to a spacious meeting room, where Donald was already seated, reviewing some documents. The environment was elegant but understated, reflecting the character of the hosts. After the greetings, Donald got straight to the point. "Logan, Grace and I have an ambitious plan. Our foundation has been helping people all over the world, but we need someone like you, someone who is connected to the real needs of people, someone who doesn't just see numbers and statistics, but human beings. We want you to join us." Logan fell silent for a moment, trying to absorb what was being offered. He had left a job as a waiter, lost his financial security, and now stood before a proposal that could change his life completely. It felt like a dream, but every detail was so vivid that he knew it was real. Grace watched him closely. "What you did for me at the restaurant, Logan, was more than an act of kindness. You showed courage and humanity in a world where that is increasingly rare. We need someone with your heart to lead a new project within the foundation, something that goes beyond what we already do. You will have the freedom to create something truly impactful." Her words struck a deep chord in Logan. He had always wanted to make a difference but never knew how. And now, there it was, the opportunity to turn his ideals into reality. However, with excitement came a wave of uncertainty. He wasn't a businessman. He had no experience in philanthropy. He was just a young man with good intentions. "I don't know if I'm the right person for this," he confessed, his voice heavy with honesty. "I don't have the experience you need." Donald smiled, as if he had been expecting that response. "Experience is gained, Logan. What you have is something we can't teach. You have genuine empathy, and that's what we need most. The rest, we will help you learn." Logan looked at Grace, searching for any sign that could give him certainty. What he saw was understanding and trust. "I believe in you, Logan," she said softly. "I trust that you can do something great." Her words, so simple and sincere, touched a part of Logan he barely knew existed. For the first time in a long time, he felt he had a purpose, that he could truly do something meaningful. And in that moment, he made his decision. "I accept," he said, with a firmness that surprised even himself. "I accept your offer." Donald and Grace smiled, and Logan knew he had made the right choice. But at the same time, he felt the weight on his shoulders. He knew this was just the beginning of a new journey, a journey that would demand everything from him. As Logan stepped out of the Foundation's headquarters, the cold wind of Manhattan hit him hard, but he didn't flinch. There was a new strength within him, a conviction he hadn't had before. However, as he walked away from the building, his phone vibrated in his pocket. It was a message from Gabriel Taylor, the former manager of La Magnifique. "We need to talk. Meet me at the restaurant tonight." Logan stared at the message for a moment, feeling his heart race. What could Gabriel possibly want now? Curiosity and uncertainty mixed, and Logan knew he had to go. There was something more to resolve before he could move forward. Upon arriving at the restaurant, the place felt different. Perhaps it was him who was different. Gabriel was waiting for him at one of the corner tables, where they usually discussed shifts and daily tasks. But this time, the manager's expression was more serious, almost regretful. "Logan, I was pressured to fire you that day," Gabriel began without preamble. "But seeing what happened afterward, I realized I made a mistake, a grave mistake." Logan remained silent, observing the man in front of him. He had never seen Gabriel like this, so vulnerable. "The restaurant is facing a crisis because of the video, and things aren't going well. Gabriel continued, his voice heavy with weight. Donald Martinez reached out to me and we had a long conversation. He suggested a partnership between the restaurant and the foundation, something that could not only save La Magnifique, but also redeem us. And he wants you to lead this new initiative. Logan didn't know what to say. The proposal was unexpected, and Gabriel seemed genuinely remorseful. I know I wronged you, Gabriel said, looking into Logan's eyes. And I'm here to ask you to come back. Not as a waiter, but as someone who can lead this new phase of the restaurant. I understand if you don't want to, but I'm willing to try to make amends. Logan felt a whirlwind of emotions. The offer was tempting, but he knew he couldn't go back to what it was before. Not after everything that had happened. There was a new mission waiting for him, and he couldn't stray from that path. I appreciate the offer, Gabriel, he finally said, his voice firm yet gentle. But I've already accepted another proposal from Donald and Grace. I'm going to dedicate myself fully to the project at the foundation. That's where I can truly make a difference. Gabriel nodded, seeming to understand. I knew I would say this, but I had to try. Good luck, Logan. I know you will do great things. Logan shook Gabriel's hand, feeling a strange sense of closure. As he left the restaurant for the last time, he knew he had made the right decisions. Now, he was ready to face the new challenge that awaited him. Logan walked through the streets of Manhattan with a newfound determination, but also with a restlessness he couldn't shake off. He had turned down Gabriel's offer, choosing to follow a path that seemed more aligned with his values, but doubt lingered. Was he really prepared to lead such a large project at the Martinez Foundation? The expectations that Donald and Grace had placed on him were enormous, and Logan couldn't help but wonder if he could live up to them. In the following days, Logan immersed himself in planning for the new project. He spent hours at the Foundation's headquarters, meeting with Grace, Donald, and other team members to better understand what would be expected of him. The project was ambitious, to create a program that combined access to health, education, and job opportunities for people in vulnerable situations. The idea was simple, but execution would require a deep understanding of people's needs and a management capacity that Logan had yet to fully develop. As he participated in meetings, Logan felt the weight of responsibility grow. He wasn't an expert. He had no background in philanthropy or management, yet now he was being tasked with something that could impact thousands of lives. The pressure was immense, and at times he questioned whether he had made the right choice by leaving the restaurant behind to embark on this new path. On a particularly difficult afternoon, Logan decided to step outside for some fresh air. He needed a moment to clear his mind, to reconnect with the reason he had accepted this mission in the first place. Strolling through Central Park, he sat on a bench and watched people pass by. Children playing, couples walking hand in hand, tourists taking photos. It was a reminder that, at its core, what he wanted was simple: to do good, to help others find a little more happiness and dignity in their lives. While reflecting, his phone rang. It was a message from Grace. She wanted to meet him at the foundation to discuss something important. Logan felt a slight tightening in his chest, fearing it was yet another responsibility he wasn't ready to take on. But he knew he couldn't back down now. Upon arriving at the foundation, Grace greeted him with her warm smile. There was a different energy about her, something more intense, as if what she was about to say carried more weight than anything they had discussed so far. Logan, I wanted to talk to you about your decision, she began, her voice gentle yet serious. I know you're facing a lot of doubts, and that's natural. I had my insecurities when I started on this path, too. Logan looked at her, surprised. But you always seem so confident, Grace. How did you overcome that? Grace sighed, as if recalling difficult moments from her own journey. Confidence isn't something you have all the time, Logan. It's something that builds step by step, and you're not alone in this. Donald and I believe in you. But more than that, we want you to believe in yourself." Logan felt a lump in his throat but tried not to let it show. "I just don't want to let you down. You've put so much trust in me and I don't even know where to start." "You've already started," Grace replied with a tenderness that disarmed Logan. "You started the moment you decided to help a stranger in the restaurant. The rest is a process, and we will be here to guide you." Logan nodded, feeling a bit more relieved. Grace's words had a sincerity that calmed him, but he knew the responsibility was still there. Even so, that meeting renewed his determination. He wasn't alone, and that made all the difference. In the following days, Logan dedicated himself to the project with renewed energy. He began meeting with experts, learning about social project management, and slowly started to envision how he could contribute meaningfully. Yet, the fear of failing lingered, a shadow he couldn't completely shake off. Until one afternoon, during a strategic meeting, Donald made an unexpected announcement. "Logan, you will be the face of this project. I want you to be the spokesperson, the person who will inspire others to join this cause." Logan felt the ground shake beneath his feet. He was already struggling to adapt to the idea of leading the initiative, and now he would also be its public face. The pressure felt unbearable. As Logan looked at Grace and Donald and saw the unwavering confidence they had in him, he knew he could not back down. "I will do my best," he said, with a firmness that came from a newfound conviction. He knew he was diving into deep waters, but he also knew he had people by his side who believed in him, and that was all he needed at that moment. With the decision made, Logan threw himself headfirst into the work. The project began to take shape, and he was surprised at how much he was learning and developing in such a short time. Meetings with experts, conversations with Grace and Donald, everything contributed to making him feel more prepared for the challenges ahead. He found himself changing, maturing. He was no longer the insecure waiter who questioned whether he had made the right choice by paying the medical bill of a stranger. Now, he was someone on the verge of leading a project with the potential to transform lives. For the first time, Logan began to see that perhaps, just perhaps, he was in the right place. Meanwhile, the restaurant, La Magnifique, was also undergoing a transformation. The crisis caused by the viral video forced Gabriel to reassess his approach, and under Donald's guidance, the restaurant began to implement significant changes. The partnership with the Martinez Foundation became a reality, and the restaurant started to allocate a portion of its profits to fund Logan's project. Additionally, Gabriel, driven by a desire for redemption, began promoting charitable events, something that had previously seemed unthinkable. Logan, for his part, was invited to participate in one of these events, not as an employee but as a special guest. It was a strange feeling to return to the place where it all began, now under such a different light. Upon entering the restaurant, he was greeted with smiles and greetings, which left him feeling both disconcerted and touched. Gabriel approached him, offering a firm and sincere handshake. "Logan, I don't know if I can make up for what happened, but I'm trying to do things differently now." Logan accepted the gesture, recognizing the sincerity in the former manager's words. "I see that, Gabriel, and I'm happy to see the changes. The restaurant has great potential to do good." The event was a success, and by the end of the night, Logan felt a sense of closure, as if a cycle was coming to an end. He had started his journey in that restaurant, and now, in some way, everything made sense. He was no longer the same, and neither was the restaurant. Both had changed, and for the better. But the biggest transformation was yet to come. Logan was invited to speak at the event to share his story and inspire others to join the cause. When he stepped onto the makeshift stage, he felt all the doubts and fears return, but he also felt something new, a quiet, yet powerful confidence. "When I started as a waiter here at La Magnifique," Logan began, "I never imagined my life would take the turn it did. I just wanted to do my job and maybe, from time to time, help someone along the way. But sometimes, a small act of kindness can trigger a series of events that change everything. That's what happened to me." The audience was silent, hanging on his every word. Logan took a deep breath and continued. "I learned that what really matters is not the rules or appearances, but people. The people we meet along the way and how we can make a difference in their lives, even if it's in a small way. And that's why I'm here today, to lead a project that has the sole purpose of helping. Because in the end, that's what matters." Applause filled the room, and Logan felt a wave of emotions. He had faced his fears, accepted his new mission, and was now ready to move forward. It wouldn't be easy, but he was prepared. As he stepped down from the stage, Grace embraced him, emotional. "You were wonderful, Logan. I knew you were the right person for this." Logan smiled, finally feeling at peace with himself. The journey had been difficult, but he was exactly where he was meant to be. The past, with all its challenges and uncertainties, had shaped the future he now embraced with conviction. And while he knew there was still much to do, he was ready. The weeks that followed were intense for Logan. With the constant support of Grace and Donald, he dedicated every moment to developing the project at the foundation. The doubts that once haunted him began to give way to solid confidence, built on hard work and the recognition that, while he didn't know everything, he was willing to learn and grow. The project took shape and was named New Horizon. The proposal was ambitious, but the goal was clear: to create a space where people could find support not just materially, but emotionally and psychologically. A place where each individual would be treated with dignity and where their needs would be heard and met in a personalized manner. The inauguration of New Horizon was scheduled for a ceremony that would take place in a specially prepared space at the foundation. The event would be the culmination of all the work that Logan and his team had put in, and he knew that, more than a celebration, it would be a moment of profound personal significance. On the day of the event, Logan arrived early, watching the final preparations while feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. Memories of everything that had happened up to that point played in his mind like a film: the incident at the restaurant, the dismissal, the meeting with Grace and Donald, and now, finally, the realization of a dream he hadn't even known he had. Guests began to arrive, including important figures from the business and philanthropic worlds, but also those who would directly benefit from the project. There was a diversity of faces, all united by a common goal: to support the mission that Logan had embraced with such dedication. When it was time to speak, Logan stepped onto the makeshift stage, feeling everyone's eyes on him. But this time, instead of nervousness, he felt a deep calm. He knew he was not alone, and that everything he had been through had prepared him for this moment. Today, we are here to celebrate not just the inauguration of a project, but the beginning of a new phase in our lives, Logan started, his voice steady and filled with emotion. The New Horizon was born from the idea that every person deserves to be heard, that every story matters, and that together we can build something much larger than ourselves. As he spoke, Grace and Donald, who were sitting in the front row, watched with pride. Grace had tears in her eyes, moved to see the young man who, months earlier, had helped without a second thought, now becoming a leader capable of inspiring so many others. Logan continued, his voice gaining strength as the words flowed naturally. This project is about hope, about giving people a new chance, a new horizon. No matter where we come from or what we face, there is always an opportunity to start over, to find our place in the world. The applause that followed was deafening, yet comforting. Logan felt the warmth of approval and empathy, not only as validation of his work, but as a sign that he was on the right path. As he stepped down from the stage, he was greeted with hugs and congratulations. But the most significant moment came when Grace and Donald approached him. "Logan," Grace said, her voice choked with emotion, "you've done something extraordinary, and this is just the beginning. I can't express how proud I am of you." Donald nodded, his serious face softened by a warm smile. "You're no longer the young man we met in that restaurant. You've grown, transformed, and I know many lives will be impacted by what you've built here." Logan felt the weight of their words, but also the lightness of knowing he had fulfilled what he set out to do. He had found a purpose, something that went beyond any expectations he once had for his life. As the ceremony continued, Logan had a moment of introspection. He looked around, seeing people interacting, sharing their stories, and realized that in each face there was a new hope. He had managed to create not just something tangible, but something that transcended the material. He had created an opportunity for others to find their own redemption, just as he had found his. And so, in that moment of recognition and celebration, Logan realized that his journey was far from over. The new horizon was just the beginning, the first of many achievements he intended to reach. He had discovered that true strength lay not just in doing what was right, but in continuing to do so, even when doubts arose, even when the path was difficult. The night progressed with celebrations and speeches, but what stayed with Logan most was the feeling that, at last, he had found his place in the world. A place where he could make a difference, where his voice and actions had a real impact. As the city lights sparkled in the distance and the guests began to say their goodbyes, Logan looked at Grace and Donald, who were animatedly chatting with some of the attendees. He approached them, and without saying a word, they exchanged a look of understanding and gratitude. There was no need for more words. What had been created there that night spoke for itself. The new horizon was just beginning, and Logan knew he was ready for whatever challenges the future would bring. He was no longer just a waiter. He was someone who had found his purpose, his mission. And as the first rays of sunlight began to rise on the horizon of Manhattan, he knew that the best was yet to come. We hope you enjoyed this narrative. Please leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more emotional stories that touch the soul. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. We'd love to hear what you think. Thank you notes and critiques are also welcome. See you in the next exciting video. Until then,